If you know anything about Catherine Willoughby, Duchess of Suffolk, you probably know that she was one of the most unconventional women of Tudor England. She had a dog named Gardner after Stephen Gardner because she disliked him so much. She was a duchess who shocked the court by marrying her gentleman usher for love, and she was a zealous Protestant reformer who fled into exile under Mary I. But less well known is her daughter, Susan Bertie, who grew up in the shadow of her very famous mother. She was twice widowed by her mid-40s, caught between royal disapproval and personal conviction. Susan lived a life that may not have made the headlines of her age, but left an imprint that shaped one of England's earliest women writers. So grab your coffee, my friend, or your water, settle in and get cozy, and let's talk about Susan Bertie. Hey friend, welcome back to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. I am your host, Heather. I've been podcasting on Tudor England since 2009 with my show, which makes it the original Tudor History Podcast. I am, as always, delighted that you're here with me today talking about Susan Bertie. Susan was born in 1554, the first child of Catherine Willoughby's second marriage to Richard Bertie. The time could not have been more dangerous. Queen Mary came to the throne the same year, and her parents' Protestant faith put them at immediate risk. In 1555, the Berties fled England, carrying baby Susan with them. They passed through Geneva, where John Calvin's Reformed Church was flourishing, and eventually they landed in Poland, where the king granted them protection and even semi-autonomy in Samogitia, a part of modern Lithuania. Susan's younger brother, Peregrine, was born there. He was born a child of exile. The family returned to England in 1559 after Elizabeth I's accession. Susan grew up at Grimsthorpe Castle. She was surrounded by a household steeped in Puritan Protestant devotion. Her tutor was Miles Coverdale, the man who had translated the Bible into English. Records from 1561 give us a glimpse of her upbringing. A crimson satin gown in the Dutch style, a golden hairnet, a lute purchased for her and Peregrine. It was the education of a noblewoman, music, fine clothes, and scripture, all in equal measure. In 1570, at the age of 16, Susan married Reginald Grey of Wrest. Another Grey. We talked about the Greys in yesterday's episode. With her mother's help, his claim to the earldom of Kent was restored in 1572, making Susan a countess. This seemed like the start of a long and prosperous career at court. But scarcely a year later, Reginald died unexpectedly, leaving Susan widowed at just 19 and without any children. So now she's a young dowager countess, and Susan remained connected to Elizabeth's court. The queen ensured that she received an annuity. It wasn't a fortune, but it was a steady safeguard. She also kept her title, though the earldom itself passed to Reginald's brother. For a time, Susan moved in courtly circles. In 1578, she acted as the chief mourner at the funeral of her friend Lady Mary Grey, another Grey, the sister of Lady Jane Grey, Lady Mary Grey. We've also done videos on them recently. See, this is what happens, you guys. I do a video and then I go down a rabbit hole and I want to do other videos. And that's why what often happens is we do things that are all related for a couple of weeks, because I read something and then that took me somewhere else and that took me somewhere else. And it kind of takes me a while to work through that. So if you can't tell, we're on the Greys right now. I don't know how long it'll last. We'll see. Anyway, like her mother before her, Susan did not always follow the path that Elizabeth would have preferred. In 1581, she married again, this time to Sir John Wingfield. He was a soldier and a nephew of Bess of Hardwicke. See, these people are all related and all with each other all the time. Anyway, to the queen, this was a step down. Noble widows, especially countesses, were expected to marry strategically, not for affection or loyalty to a captain in the Low Countries. I mean, give me a break. Elizabeth also apparently didn't like John Wingfield that much, and so not only was she a little bit ticked off because Susan went and did this without her permission, marrying below her station, but also she just didn't like the guy. but Susan pressed on regardless. So the couple actually settled in the Netherlands, where Wingfield served as governor of, I'm going to butcher this, Geertruidenberg during England's campaigns against Spain. Life there was shaped by the war and by diplomacy, but also by family. Susan gave birth to a son, Peregrine, in 1589. He was named after her brother, and later to another son, Robert. For nearly a decade, she lived as a soldier's wife abroad, a far cry from the elegant halls of Grimsthorpe or Whitehall. Then in 1596, tragedy struck again. John Wingfield was killed during the capture of Cadiz in Spain, leaving Susan widowed for the second time. After John's death, Elizabeth granted Susan a pension of £100 a year. And this shows that, even though she wasn't thrilled about the marriage, didn't really like John that much, she still wanted to support one of her ladies and someone that she saw as a friend. In her later years, Susan mirrored her mother's example as a patron of learning. She became a guardian and a mentor to Amelia Bassano, who would go on to publish Salve Deus Rex Judaeorum in 1611 under her married name Amelia Lanier. At the start of her work, Lanier praised Susan as the mistress of my youth, the noble guide of my ungoverned days. It shows how Susan, even though she wasn't living this public life, she was living a private life, she still had this kind of quiet influence, giving women an education rooted in Protestant humanist ideals. So Susan Bertie's story lacks the drama of scandal and rebellion that made her mother famous, but her life was far from ordinary. Born in exile, widowed twice, disapproved of by the Queen, and remembered as the noble woman who guided one of England's first professional female poets. So there we have it, a little bit on Susan Bertie. So my friend, if you made it to the end of this video and enjoyed it, I sure would appreciate a press of that like button. You know what it does. It helps to feed that algorithm and get our content to even more people. If you want to keep digging into Amelia Lanier, I did a video on her, which you can watch right here. Or here's another video that YouTube thinks you'll like. Thank you for being here, my friend. Remember, you are deeply and truly loved, and I'm so glad we share the planet together. You make the world a better place, and I love getting to spend this time talking about awesome Tudor women with you.